Okay, so today, you know, an exclusive, we delve into all things Vincentian, life, music, sports, religion. Today, we're dealing with sports, and my guest is Joachim. I don't think he really needs much introduction to IKTV, but I'm gonna have him introduce himself to you on an exclusive. For those of you in Canada, bonjour.
Your French is terrible, man. Jesus, we got to work on that. Unfortunately, I am reasonably well known, unfortunately. In this particular instance, I am here in my capacity as representing the Swimming Association, the SVG Amateur Swimming Federation, if you like. To talk a little bit about sports, not just swimming, hopefully, but a little bit about sports.
Okay, so before we get there, I like to touch on a bit of personal issues. So,
sure.
Who are you outside of sports?
Well, outside of sports, I am by training a chartered accountant. I'm employed by a rather large company in the Grenadines, Musty Company. We're in the tourism business, and we're in the resort type business also. But outside of that, that's what I am really. I'm an accountant. I'm a boring accountant, that's all. And occasionally, my friend Big and Tony asked me to come on Reddit and give my opinions on certain things, which I'm good at doing apparently. To stir things up a little bit is good to do. Well, it's a good thing to do. It's a good thing to stir things up. You know, it's important to get people to think. They don't have to agree with you, but they must think about it and be able to justify their thoughts. Okay,
I think it needs more people with that ideology in life. Okay, so, you know, I'm going to get straight to the meat of this. We're going to deal with sports, in specific swimming. Sure. That's what you mainly focused on.
That's what I'm focused on now, yes. Okay. And I'm focused on that all largely because my kids happen to be swimmers. Huh?
Right.
I originally was focused on squash when I was younger and I had knees and I could play squash, but now I'm into swimming.
Okay. Okay. So on a radio program, NBC Radio, a few nights ago, I was listening to what's the program called? A sports program.
Yeah.
And there was a big mention about sports in St. Vincent, and that sports is not being facilitated for the young people. The schools are not properly doing it. Some persons, their grandpas in Form 1 because they're really good at sports. So we're going to take cracks at this.
Yeah, we could take cracks at it all along the way because. And I'm glad you started on that point and not just about swimming because swimming is a small sport. It's a tiny sport, really. Right. But I have a passionate thing here where we have things called education, we have things called sports. Right. And it seems to me rather stupid because sports is a part of education. Or in this case, since it's in the Grenadines, it should be a part of education because everybody will tell you it. You know, they'll talk about sports bringing discipline into your life, bringing character into your life, you know, being a part of. And I'm a big advocate that sports should be a part of our curriculum, and it is not. Instead, what we do now is we have PE 1 day a week, which is nowhere near good enough in most schools. Right. And then you have running, track and field, if you like, for a couple of weeks in January and February, which again is nowhere near good enough. You know, right. You raise an interesting point about facilities too. We don't need necessarily to have tremendous facilities. You see, unlike most people, we understand that governments have limited resources and governments have to make decisions about what are their priorities with those resources, all right? And in my view, and I'll give you an example in a second with swimming, what we have done, or what we try to do, is that you have to build partnerships with people. You have to work with people to develop things. Instead of sitting around complaining that there are no facilities, why don't you make use of what there is and try and make it a little bit better? We've got hard courts all over this country. We've got an ocean all surrounding our country. So you know, you can swim if you want, you can run if you want, you have roads, you know, through the fields of grass and we don't have a track, but you know what, let's get started. Let's stop making excuses for not doing stuff and let's get started. And what really bothers me more than anything is the politics within sports, right? Because we bring politics into all aspects of life here, probably even into religion when last I checked. But certainly in sports, huh?
Actually, this is something with religion.
There you go. We'll stay away from religion today because I usually get hung when I start to talk about religion. Right. But in terms of sports, right, we really need to understand that politics has no place in sport. None. Zero. If we care about our young people, and that's what sports has done. Sports is played largely by young people. You know, and I've said this numerous times before, I don't understand who came up with the great idea that we should have a Ministry of Education and a Ministry of Sports. To me, that is just insanity. Who plays sports? For by and large, it's young people. So why isn't there a Ministry of Education and Sports as part of that ministry? You know, because what we're doing now is really, in my view, stupid. And we need to do better than that. And we need to encourage the politicians that they have to do better for our young people because it is not good enough right now.
Okay. So what do you think, right, is the reason why they have separated education and sports?
Well, I don't know. To me, it was obviously somebody, and I hate to use the term, but I can't figure any other term to use. It had to be some kind of idiot who decided that they were separate, because I mean, I just don't see it. You know, I don't understand the rationale behind it. And you talk about facilities. Let me raise a point to you, right? And I'll jump back into swimming quickly.
Right.
I'm at the Cyclist Sports Awards about a week ago, I think it was, or 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And it was held at Murray Bullock's place, up at Murray Heights Hotel. And I'm there afterwards, and I'm looking around, chatting and whatever. And Murray Bullock is a big ULP supporter. We know this. He's chairman of the lottery, everything, right? And Murray makes no apologies for that, and he shouldn't. He's entitled to his views. But we're sitting around talking afterwards, and he's got a nice pool up there. It's probably 20, 25 meters. You know, it's a nice pool. And we're sitting there looking around, and there are schools all over this area. In central Kingstown. There's probably thousands of kids there. So I asked him, how many kids use your pool, Murray? None. None. Why not? Why don't we have kids from grammar school or from girls' high school or from all the other schools in that area? It doesn't have to be a whole pile, 15, 20 of them. Instead of PE and going out and doing your little running around, why aren't you swimming? We have people drowning in this country. Can't doing the basics of swimming. Why don't we go to Murray Bullock and say, Murray, we want to rent your pool. We will help, because pools cost money. You have to have chemicals to maintain them. You have electricity to run your pumps. They are not cheap to run. You say, Murray, we will give you a subsidy, or we will rent your pool from you, and in return, these kids can use the pool for a couple of hours a day, right? Over a certain period of time. Why are we not doing this? I can tell you one reason. Because as soon as anybody does that, oh, Murray Bullock is a ULP man, so that is why they're giving him money. That to me is stupidity. Let's use what facilities we have, and when they're available, use them. Who cares? Who the hell cares if it's a ULP supporter or not? I certainly don't care. I care that the facilities get used to the benefit of the young people in our country, and we're not doing that now. We're not doing a good enough job of that.
Okay, are you a sportive person?
Am I?
Yeah, are you a sportive person? Do you play any sports?
Well, when I was young, I used to be a decent runner, and I used to play a lot of football. Long distance running, track and field. And then when I got a little bit older, I had this great idea that I was going to take up squash. And that just proves that I'm an idiot, if nothing else, right? Because you already have bad knees and you're going to go and take up a sport called squash. So I eventually was forced to give that up after about 9 or 10 operations on my right knee and 2 or 3 on my left. So I'm a mess. I'm a mess physically, but I'm still But tomorrow I'll be in Trinidad for Carnival, so I'm going to still work on the knees.
Okay. Let's just hope you don't need another surgery. Okay, so let's get into your. I'm calling this your specialty, right? Swimming. I believe it was earlier in this year or late last year that some of the swimmers from the team, I believe that you work with, they brought home some medals to St. Vincent. How did we get from not having a swimming team, a national swimming team, to bringing home medals? Well, and what exactly were those medals?
Well, to go back a little bit further, swimming has been in existence in one form or another in St. Vincent. And what has happened over the years is exactly what's happening now. Somebody will come in because the kids are good swimmers. And when the kids are done or somebody does something stupid, they will leave and the sport declines again. And then somebody else will come in. So we had other people come long before me doing their thing, and then it died for a while, and then Andrew Cadogan, a friend of mine, and some other people decided to get together because their kids wanted to swim. And then they approached the government to see if they could get Shrewsbury House pool. Because Shrewsbury House had a pool there that was basically not used in probably 15 years and fallen apart rapidly. So Andre and his team at the time raised a ton load of money, relatively speaking, to get this pool up and running at its basic level. All right, so we started there. I stumbled into swimming only because it happens that my daughter, Shanae, decided she was going to be a swimmer. And she tried it and she loved it, and it so happens that she's very good at it. Shanae is a physical freak, you know, to put it politely. She's now 14 years old and she's 6 feet tall and 140 pounds, and she's built like, you know, like a truck. Wow. She is a tremendous. Yeah. No, she's a tremendous athlete. Huh? I remember we went to the first Carifta we went to the Caribbean Championships, and that's like 22 different countries. Huh? And it was up in the Bahamas. And I said to her, I said, honey, you're going to get your backside whooped in every single event, huh? So prepare for it. And sure enough, we went up there, and that's what happened. She came last or second last in every single event in 2011. So I told her, I said, honey, you now have a choice. You can either quit, or you can decide you're coming back to give some licks the way you got licks this year. So she came home. She has a terrific coach, a gentleman named Kyle Duggan, who hopefully we'll get to talk about a little later on also. because coaching is critical. Without coaches, you have nothing. So she came back, she worked hard, and the next year she was able to win our medal at Carifta, which was an incredible achievement. And the year after that, she went and broke a Carifta record, which again is an amazing thing, because I don't know if a Vincentian in any other sport has ever broken a Carifta record. I could be wrong, my friends in track and field may have done it.
Right.
And then of course, we've had some other good young swimmers, but Sinead was the one who led the way, if you like. And as a friend of mine said, Vincentians only care about winners. They only care about people who win medals, right? So
Right.
Sinead was sort of the leader in that. Then a year later along came Nicholas Sylvester, and he started winning medals too, and breaking records too. And he's a terrific swimmer. He, if anything, I suspect, will outdo Sinead in the long run. That's my suspicion. And of course, right behind him, a year behind him, is a gentleman named Shane. That's my daughter, I love her very much. But Nick has the drive. Nicholas has the drive for success. Not only is he a terrific swimmer, I'm told he just broke a record, I think yesterday or the day before, or last week, in the 5,000 meters at grammar school. So he's a terrific runner too. He also happens to be, he plays the PAM tour, and he released a CD last year.
Right. I was there at the launch.
Right, okay. So that's just, I mean, you know, so we have, it goes back to what I'm saying about sports being an all-rounded individual, producing an all-rounded individual, sorry. Then we got Shane Cadogan. Shane is just starting to shine now, you know. And these kids are young. Nick is swimming in the 13-14 category this year. Next year, we move up to 15-17. You know, and Shane is a year behind him. And then I have a little boy on the way too named Alex, my son, who went to Trinidad at the end of December and managed to win the Trinidad event down there too. And that's serious competition too. So we're doing well along the way. Unfortunately, what we're not seeing is enough young girls coming through. We've got a few in the maybe 10 and under category, but you know. And swimming is a strange sport. You don't start swimming late. If you don't start young, you're dead. If you look at all the events you go to and you see the same names recurring in the 9 to 10 category, and then the same people are winning again in 11-12 and 13-14 and 15-16, and the George Bovells of the world. It's interesting when you go to Carifta. George Bovell of Trinidad and Tobago is one of the best swimmers in the world. He's won medals at World Championships. He's been very close at the Olympic Games. A tremendous human being.
Right.
But again, if you look at the record books, you could see his name all the way through. So you could see you start very young. If you don't start young, you simply can't get good enough, you know. So we've won OEC. We've had Nicholas and Shane and Sinead all breaking OECS records. Last year, all three made Carifta finals, and this year, hopefully, all three will win medals. I don't know; it'll be tough for Shane because it's his first year, 13-14. But it's a tough sport, you know. It's really hard because you got kids. To interrupt you, but some of these kids are getting up at 4:30 in the morning. They're driving out to Shrewsbury House. I think of Nick in particular, and Shane, and Cruz Halbish, and all these kind of kids. Some of them are getting up 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, going out to Shrewsbury Pool, swimming for an hour and a half to 2 hours, putting on their clothes, going to grammar school, do their work all day in school, and they're back at the pool again at 6 o'clock at night to do another 2 hours.
And
this isn't easy to get good.
They bring out good results also academically.
And academically, they are terrific. All of them, I believe, are doing very well academically. So when people say, the first thing that we Vincentians do when your kids start doing bad is we take them out to sports. Right. No, sorry, you're wrong. Okay, that's stupid to do.
That's what I was going to get at. Because when you mentioned the age, the first thing came in my mind, the restrictions that are caused from the age, the home, and parenting styles, and ignorance.
Yep, correct.
And these are things that I'm trying to get out, right, to people that sport, it's been proven that being involved in an extracurricular activity, be it sports or whatever, actually helps young people in their academics because it helps them keep the mind going, keep the blood going, keeping oxygen flowing through the body.
Absolutely right. I mean, I played sports all my life and I haven't done too badly academically. I'm not a brain surgeon, but not too bad. But it is so true, and I wish we could get it into people's heads. And that's why I went back to where I started on about separation of education and sports in the ministries. It is so wrong. You know, where I went to school, I was fortunate. Because I was not a very good child. They shipped me off to school overseas. I was a terrible kid. Anyway, as a result of that, though, where I went to school, you had your academics in the morning, very highly structured, and then in the afternoon you played sports every day, depending upon the time of year. It was either rugby or cricket or football or cross-country running or track and field. It was, you know, you played a wide variety of things, but it was part of your curriculum. My daughter, who's now in school in Canada, Sinead, same one. part of our curriculum. Every single day she has to play a sport. And in addition to that, you also have to do a certain number of community hours too. You got to go into the community and help the poor people or help those who are less fortunate than you, right?
Build morals.
Build something. Right, exactly. They're trying to teach you some ethics and some morals here. And it's fantastic. And if all we do is focus on academics, we produce a bunch of highly educated morons, as I like to call a lot of them. Because really, we are moronic in our thinking. All we can do is think about our academic side. And there's a lot more to life than academics.
My sociology teacher said when I was in college that St. Vincent produces a lot of intelligent idiots.
That's a nice way to put it. I prefer to just say the term idiots, because the problem with intelligence is we confuse education with intelligence, right? Education is about opportunity. How many years you can spend in school and what pieces of paper you can get or certificates or whatever. Intelligence is a different thing. Intelligence is not education, my friend.
That's a story for another time. We're going to do that another time. Okay, so what is the state of swimming in St. Vincent and the Grenadines at present?
I'll tell you what. Because I don't get the opportunity to say much, right? I want to say a few things. So forgive me if I go on too much, and feel free to cut me off and shut me down. Huh? I know you'll be good at that. I know that. But what we have done in the last 2 years, I have become president, and Andre, who I mentioned previously, is my vice president. And we have a team. The executive council is a team. We got Kim Haldish, and everybody has a role to play. We got Kentish James as our treasurer, Garcia is my secretary. We've got different people, and all performing a role. So a lot of the time you get to things like this, and I get all the credit. Joachim gets all the credit. He's doing all of this. He's not. What I am trying to do is manage the process and get everybody to do what they are good at and to focus on what they are good at and get them to contribute. It's managing, it's leading a team. At the National Sports Awards on the weekend, we won everything we win. We won Junior Sportswoman of the Year, Junior Sportsman of the Year, Coach of the Year for Kyle Duggan, Sports Personality. What we have to recognize... Wait,
this weekend is the 6th, 7th, and 8th, right?
The one, yeah. Correct, yeah.
Okay, we're just saying it because there's a delay in reaching to Canada, so...
I understand, okay. Yeah. But, you know, at this National Sports Awards, the Prime Minister made a very good point. He said, success is really about leadership, huh? Right. Leadership matters. Leadership doesn't matter because you need to dictate to people, but leadership matters because you manage people and you try and put the right people in the right positions because you cannot do everything yourself, right? So what we've tried to do is not just build a team, but also recognize that your focus needs to be first and foremost on the development of the athletes and the young kids. And if you want to help the young kids, you know what you have to do? You have to help the coaches. Because too many times the administrators like us get in the way. Put the coaches in the right positions. Try and get them some decent facilities, but you need the commitment of the coaches to focus on the benefit of their children, not just on themselves and their own egos. And that happens too often. I look at this country now, right? Look at track and field in our country. We have so many talented athletes here, and we see almost nothing come out of track and field. Now, the people who run track and field are my friends, okay? And the reason they have nothing, in my view, the reason that they fail, the reason is they have too many coaches and they're not managed adequately. In this country, we've got 200 trained athletic coaches. 200 is what they tell me. We could be successful because we've got really 2 swimming clubs and a small pool. So it's easy for people to sit around and criticize track and field, right? But give us all the credit. But the reality is, it's easier for me too than it is for the people in track and field. And I know we couldn't do half as well trying to run track and field as we do in swimming because it's a different set of dynamics involved. Entirely different. Huh? The other thing that's really important is you need to be able to work with people. You need to have partnerships with people. You know, so what we have done, the National Lottery has been terrific to us. Because we've been successful, they support us. The National Olympic Committee has been terrific for us because they help us because ultimately they want winners also, you know. The government has been extremely helpful to us, you know. I served in my previous thing my previous life many years ago. I was chairman of the National Lottery Board under the NDP regime, which you're way too young to remember.
I have no idea.
But I served under I served under the NDP, right?
Right.
And as a result of that, everybody thinks, oh, you know, the government will hate you or whatever. Well, that's not the case because I go to them and I say, listen, I give credit where it is due, and I say you're doing crap if I think you're doing crap. And we went to the government and we said, listen, we need to expand the pool. The pool facility at Shrewsbury House. We know you don't have money. We know that you have other priorities, right? Just give us permission to extend the pool. The government, through the National Properties Affiliate, gave us permission. They said, okay, go ahead, enlarge the pool, here's your plans, here's what you're going to do. So this way we can now host OACS events in the future. We can host regional events, which helps your tourism too, right? So it all ties together nicely. Yeah? And then, of course, I realized, oh, I don't have enough money to build a pool, so what am I going to do here? So I run to my sponsors. I run to Careers, and Careers agrees to provide the steel for me. You know, I run to Scotiabank, and Scotiabank agrees to give me some cash so I can buy some cement. And then I go to Lime, and Lime agrees to help me buy pool pumps and stuff that I need. And I go to Bragson. I said, Bragson, can you help with the excavation, please, that we need to get done? So my point, and I'm sure I've missed out some people, so if I have, my apologies. But the point is you build teams, and your job then is to manage it. I've got Brian George and Kenyatta Eileen, whose kids are swimmers. They're both engineers, very successful engineers. And I say, well, you know what, guys? You design and get the pool done and make sure that part is done.
Okay, I think one of the things that we missed earlier is the name of the organization, the swimming organization.
Well, we just changed our name from the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Amateur Swimming Association to the SVG Swimming Federation. Okay. Because I personally think we should change the name of our country now. We need to be the Grenadines. We don't need it's way too long to write out. I don't understand why we need St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
SVG short. Okay,
SVG short. Yep.
Okay, so now we're going to get into a bit of trouble. You were president of this organization.
I was president of this organization. We had an AGM, an annual general meeting, 2 nights ago. And it's really interesting because you see it, I started out this program by talking about sports, and they go into these up and down depending upon who's leading it, right? Well, you know, when organizations start to do well, suddenly everybody wants to get involved. Last year at our AGM, before we won any awards at all, before we half as well known as we are now, we had an annual general meeting and 10 people showed up. 10. This year we had well over 25. And it was interesting because I didn't recognize some of the people who were there. I didn't know who they were.
They're uninvolved in sports and they just show up.
Well, somebody paid their $25 fee to become a member of the association, and they show up. And they show up in the AGM. And they decide in their infinite wisdom that they're going to vote for certain people. Now, I continually emphasize the fact that I believe we work as a team. I may be the leader of the team, but we are a team. Right. So when I propose that we want this team, and you decide you don't want that team, you want to replace some members of my team that I am recommended, then what you're saying is you don't want my team. And I'm not prepared, therefore, to work with certain people if they're not part of my team. Therefore, I simply said, well, you know, you need to find a new president, obviously, because I am not prepared to continue being a president and work with people who I do not know their capabilities or competences. I don't believe you make change, and this will apply a lot in many things in life. I talked to one of the guys after the meeting, and he said to me, oh, he voted for this person on the new executive because he believed the change is good, and you should always try and put 1 or 2 new people on the organization. So I looked at him, I said, great, wonderful. Why? And I can't get a straight answer because he believes it's good to refresh. Really? How are we doing? Well, we're doing great. So why do you want to change something that's working? Why do you want to change something that is not only working, but getting better year after year? We continue to improve. And you want to change it. Why? We must be very careful when we say we like change. Because sometimes you change and all you do is get worse. If you change only if you think you can improve. Okay. Right?
So what exactly, I'm asking this question because I want to get down in some real touchy issues. Like what exactly is the constitution of the organization? Can it be that, okay, if a new executive is established and they're not working, is it possible to just revert back to the old executives?
No, the constitution is very clear, and we redid the constitution this year. And interestingly, one of the things that we did, we said, listen, you have to pay your membership fee, which by the way is only $25, 25 VC dollars. Right. You have to pay a membership fee a month before the AGM, because before you were required, you could come in there, walk in the day of the AGM, pay $25 and vote. We said you have to pay a month in advance. So we gave people 6 weeks notice before, and we said you have to pay. So some people decided they were going to pay for a whole pile of other people to show up. That is their right. It's a democracy.
So they've bought in other persons.
In my view, that is exactly what happened. Right? So I am not prepared to work under those kinds of terms and conditions, and we've made it clear. And at some point, once again, we are busy trying to destroy a successful sport. We've seen it in other organizations. We saw it in football a few years ago. Something very similar is alleged to have happened in football, where people came in and basically at the last minute paid their fees, and a whole pile of people showed up to vote who had no genuine interest in the sport. People there who we did not recognize. You've never volunteered. to help at a swim meet. You've never been there for fundraising at a swim meet. We don't see your children there. So why are you in our AGM trying to decide who should serve and who should not serve? Why are you there, other than the fact that you want to stir up trouble? So once again, in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we're trying to kill something successful.
Okay. So I'm allowing you to go because I'm going to be picking up on you.
Go right ahead.
So in creating the new executive, why is was it so important for you to have your same team in place? Is it that you're not certain of the skills and talents of these new persons that they're being elected?
No, it's not that. It's that you have to feel comfortable with the people you work with. I work in an organization I mentioned earlier. I'm the Chief Financial Officer. I'm a chartered accountant by training.
Right.
My boss doesn't tell me who I employ. I employ who I want to employ. He holds me accountable for getting my job done.
Right.
I can't turn to him and say, oh, by the way, this person who's working for me didn't do the job and that is why the job hasn't been done. No. I make the decision, so I employ and I want people who work with me and are comfortable working for me. And at an annual general meeting, there is a thing called a democracy, I believe. And I firmly believe in democracy. Too many people have died to give us a right to have some freedom. Right. The people who showed up there and paid their $25 or had their $25 paid for them by somebody else, they have every right, legally, to show up and do what they did. Morally and ethically, they're totally wrong. But they have a legal right to do that. Similarly, I also have a right to say, no, I'm not going to work with these people. That is also my right.
Right.
So
you were re-elected as president?
Nobody stood against me.
Okay. So you had the clean sweep either way?
Well, no, do you see, it's not, but it's, again, I can get up and brag, yeah, I'm president again, big deal, right? But if you don't have the people to work around you, what's the point? Right? Okay, and I'm not saying the people who were elected couldn't do the job. The point is I do not know. Whereas I know for sure the current people are doing a tremendous job. So why change them? I go back to it again. You do not change for the sake of change. You change only if you think you can do better. And that may apply in many different areas in life. Yeah. Not just in sports.
Evaluating and moving on.
Correct.
But Stephen, I can call you Stephen, right?
Of course, that's my name.
So
Mr. Joachim is my dad.
Oh. Okay, so in moving forward, right, do you think that maybe you don't, maybe you don't know these people's full capabilities because you were not paying full attention?
No, I don't know their capabilities.
Or is it that it just wasn't showing up at all, so you really have no idea who these persons are?
That's one point. The second point, though, however, it's not about me questioning their capabilities. It's that I know what I'm dealing with. And I know what these people can do. So why do I want to change for? Why do I want to interrupt something that's very successful? Not only very successful, but in the middle of some critical things. We're halfway on the construction of a pool. Halfway, we're all, maybe 70% done. Right. You're going to stop that now? To prove what point? I just said to you earlier on, you work as a team with people. You bring on new people. What happens if some of the people who are funding us don't particularly want to deal with these kinds of people? What do you do then? So you need to engage your brain before you make stupid decisions. Okay?
Right.
You need to ask yourself questions, to say, why do you want to change? And again, you change for two reasons. Because people are doing a bad job and you think people can do better. Those are the reasons you change. You don't, or people, why change otherwise? Is it that they're doing a terrible job? And in the sport of swimming, we are doing a very good job. Now, we've talked a lot about the elite swimmers and the best swimmers. One thing we have not talked about, that swimming is doing great, because swimming cannot be about 3 or 4 great swimmers in one little pool out of Shrewsbury House, that we're wasting our time. That's why I wanted to start at the beginning about sports in general. So, one of the big things that we are doing is the Mustique Charitable Trust. Again, not a partnership again with somebody else.
Right.
We are sending some of our coaches into various communities and bringing kids from various communities to teach them how to swim. Not just teaching them to swim though, but to talk about sensible things. To talk about how do you handle conflict. Because there's a lot of violence in our society. I'll give you my horrific example that I heard. And so far, I think we've done 4 communities and we're now working on 2. We did Layu. We did a program at Layu. We did a program at Rose Place. We did a program at Caliqua. And no, not yet. And we did Beckwith. We are now in the process of doing a program at Oya and at Sion Hill. So that's 6 that we're dealing with there. And that program is really being led by Louise Mitchell-Joseph. All right, well, Bing's wife. Sorry, Bing. But Louise is one of these people who are genuine do-gooder types. The world needs more of them. Not like people like me, we're the capitalist swine. But Louise gives endlessly of her time and effort. She does tremendous work. She's driving out to OWIA every weekend and taking the coaches out to coach the kids out there, I mean, that's not easy to do. You have to be really dedicated, You have to really want the good for the children in our country.
Right.
And everybody, as I said, everybody has a role to play. And Louise is tremendous in that area. The other thing I want to talk about in terms of partnership is we do not get a chance to recognize our partners enough. We really don't. I mentioned earlier Lime, Scotiabank, and Couriers, and I want to mention them again and again. Because every time we go away and we do well and we write a press release, and we send it to the press, the printed press, you know what they do? They remove reference to our supporters and our sponsors. If Lime doesn't give us money, if Scotiabank doesn't give us money, if Couriers doesn't give us money, if the National Lottery doesn't give us money, if the National Olympic Committee doesn't give us money, we ain't going anywhere. You cannot build sports. You cannot be competitive in this world unless you have money. These are the people who give us money. And every time we send out a press release, the editors in these papers decide to remove those names. They're not doing us any favors because eventually the only thing we have to offer our sponsors, the only thing,
publicity,
is some publicity. And if you keep doing that to us, all you're going to do, guys, is they will stop supporting us. So I want to plead with them again, please, think about this. It's not like Lime and Couriers and Scotiabank are getting free publicity and are not doing for it. They spend a fortune advertising in the papers anyway. So why would you do that?
Okay, I think maybe the psyche behind that is, they're not paying for this column. Mm-hmm. They're not paying for it, so they're not getting an advertisement. Maybe that is the mentality that is set behind it.
Well, in that case, maybe we should pay for our press releases too. Maybe the newspapers should also pay for news. I don't know. I don't agree with that at all. I'm sorry. I think it is. I just don't understand why they do it.
So.
Well, I believe so too, but the people who somebody has, there's no such thing as free in this world. Somebody always pays the piper. And the people who pay the pipers for the news are the advertisers. And if the advertisers are taking some of that money to help swimming, they should be recognized for the good things that they're doing too. And I think it is disgraceful that we do not get the opportunity to say thank you to these people often enough, and that they should be recognized for doing good things.
Okay, so in working together, right, you mentioned before, and I'm going back to this, the presidency and team and everything. In working together, I once heard someone say that team is together each achieves more, right? So would it have been a better idea to, with the team that you already have, the new elected persons come on as understudy? If it is that it is to have fresh faces on the scene, or probably to give younger persons experience, wouldn't it have made more sense to have these persons to understudy the team that was already there?
One, they didn't need to understudy because one of the persons had already served in the executive previously, and they had serious conflicts with other members of the executive currently. And there was no way that certain other people on the executive who are on the current team would be willing to work with that particular individual. They made it very clear to me, make a choice. It's her or me. Simple as that. In my view, I'm sorry. That makes it easy. You make a choice. You make a decision in your life. You choose your team. You're the captain of the team. You select your team. And if you don't like your team, do not be forced into leading a team you don't want to be with. I mean, think of, anyway, let me leave that alone. I'll stay away from that.
You're running over?
No, I was running away because I don't want to drag politics into this in any way, shape, or form, and it's relatively easy to drift into that area, and I'm staying away from it. So forgive me. Yes.
Right, and I really don't want anybody complaining about this. Okay, so swimming, right? I picked up something from what you mentioned that when Louise Mitchell-Joseph takes these coaches out, and they teach them about not just swimming. The coaches not just teach them swimming, but they teach them basic life lessons, and they add morals. So this is another addition to what we started in the beginning, where sports and education is not separated, and education also includes moral values.
Absolutely.
And these are the core things that build our nations, and the things that need to young people.
And I'll go back to what I said earlier about everybody having a role to play. Nicole Sylvester used to be on the executive, and she just got re-elected now. Oh, she just got elected again, okay? She used to be previously, and then she came on. Nicole is a friend of Louise's, and Nicole has made presentations to some of these kids. and said to them, you know, in terms of about how do you resolve conflict other than with violence. And she's very good at that. So everybody has a role to play. Doesn't mean that you should be good in other roles, but she's good at that role. Okay? I was going to tell you earlier on about my fear of violence too in our country, because we brought these kids from Rose Place, about 25 of them, I believe. And one day, one couldn't show up. One of the girls didn't show up. And somebody asked them, one of the coaches or whatever, said, "Where's the girl? How come she isn't here?" And they said to me she had been cabled. Do you know what cabling is?
No idea.
Let me tell you what cabling is. You take a piece of cable, electric cable.
I'm afraid of where this is going. Yeah.
And you take this cable and you beat the child. And the child has welts all over her back. The child can't go anywhere near water because it stings. They have cuts all over their back. In the rest of the world, whoever did that would be in jail.
Yeah.
Not in our country, so. This is the level of stupidity we're at in our country. Ignorance and stupidity. And instead of dealing with these important issues, we talk trivial stupidness. Instead of talking about the level of violence being inflicted upon young people, violence being inflicted upon women, we don't talk about those things.
Yeah.
We don't talk about the importance of birth control. No, we're too busy talking political stupidity instead.
Yeah, and you know, this is one thing that has always been bugging me. And I don't know if anybody noticed, but is that every season I always bring something about this young people, especially children. I love children.
Yep.
Above everything else, that's what I want to do, right?
Correct.
And I firmly believe, and I heard you say this one on a program that IKTV had, and it's stuck in my head, right? To the point where you said doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result is just foolish.
The definition of insanity, my friend. The definition of insanity.
Right. And I keep thinking that, especially with this beating thing, I'm completely against it. I call it abuse, especially.
It is abuse.
Especially when there's marks, it leaves marks on the skin. Because really and truly, for me personally, if you're going to hit me and tell me don't do something, I'm going to do it again to show you that you ain't doing nothing.
Thank you.
That's just me.
Thank you.
I mean, some people call it rebellious and whatever, and rude. But
I agree. And that's why we have the argument all the time. I recorded a radio show, I think my friend Bing was listening to it one time, where I said, you know, did you all religious refrain about spare the rod and
that's a
whatever the hell it is? Well, you know, I said, well, of course, the problem is I then read from the Bible, other things that are in the Bible, and said, do you really need to take everything literally? We really don't need to be that. We've gone beyond this. Thank you. We've gone way beyond this. Let's be sensible now. You know. So.
And from what I have discovered in my study in that thing too, right? The rod was not necessarily beaten. It was punishment.
Yeah.
And there's something I'm always saying. Yeah. Okay, so spare the rod and spoil the child.
Yeah.
It doesn't say go and hit the child.
It doesn't.
It doesn't say abuse the child and leave the child with a bunch of marks on the skin, because that's what soldiers do to criminals, right?
Yeah.
So punish them, take away something from them,
but then you have the problem.
And it's scarring the children, because when you do these things now, they're going to be like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to waste my time go sports because hey, I have these things. I miss 2-4 weeks, and then eventually, naturally, if you miss something that you're good at for a good while, eventually your interest in it is going to fade, and I believe that is being affected in sports.
I believe that, but again, all we have to do is go back to putting the interest of the children first. But no, we put the interest of our egos first. So when you start to hit a child, it's not because you really want to punish the child, it's because you're angry. And we can't control our anger, so we hit out, we lash out. You know, and we need to go beyond that, you know. You need to focus on young people, you need to help them, and we are not doing a very good job of that. And everybody turns around again and blames the politicians because we don't want to look in the mirror. There's something fundamentally wrong with us as Vincentians. And for some reason, we don't want to look at that. When you look at how other countries behave and other people in other countries behave, and you look at the way we behave, we need to look in the mirror. We need to look and say, what's wrong with us? Why do we keep doing these stupid things all the time? Why are we so destructive? Why don't we admire people who've been successful? What is wrong with us? These people are doing good, let me go tear them down.
And
this team of people is doing well, let me go make a change.
In the other countries and say that that's not what they want in this country. But then there's another thing that I'm always looking at concerning the children also. Instead of focusing on, and this is something I picked up just by walking on the street. Instead of telling a child, that's okay, you make mistakes, but like you said, you told your daughter, are you going to take this whooping as something to learn from? Go and motivate yourself and push again. Instead we say, oh, you can't do it, you're a failure, and there's just completely negatives. With there's nothing positive.
It's what we call psychological warfare. And I'm going to repeat a story that I once said on Rendered several years ago. In Mustique, I lived in Mustique for a while. I live up here now, but I lived there for a while, and I remember there was a white headmaster, foreign headmaster, and I use the term white as foreign and not local people. And we were chatting at lunch one time, and I said, who does better? The local kids, the black kids or the white kids? And by the white kids, I meant the expat kids who were in the school. And he looked at me and he said, the white kids by a mile. And then he said, you know what though? It has nothing to do with intelligence. It has to do with the environment at home. When the white, quote unquote, white expat kids go home, the parents were there to help them. The parents encouraged them. When the poor black kids went home, the parents who were there or the uncles who were there, because most of the time the parents aren't there, you know, or maybe it's a single mother and herself, because our men like to breed them and leave them, as I say. But, you know, so they go home and they get this abuse. And it's not physical abuse necessarily. You go home and they're doing their homework and the parent will say, and all of us have heard people say this, oh, that's all you doing, man, when I was your age, I used to do this and this and this. They don't understand
and that doesn't
the psychological impact you're having on the child. You're destroying the child. All of us should want our children to do better than us, not the other way around. And we're not thinking when we say things to children. We don't understand the psychological impact we have on them when we say stupid things to them. So we need to think better.
Yeah, and there's a thing that can be applied here, something from the Bible. It says that the power of life and death is in the tongue. And persons are going to go around and they're going to use words, oh, I want my child to be better than me. But then at the same time, you go home and you tell your child, oh, you're stupid.
Correct, yeah. Hang on a second. My son is in grammar school. You know, one of his teachers told him the other day, Form 1 in grammar school. They told him he was a retard. A teacher is telling a child in grammar school that they were a retard. Never mind that there's no English teacher for 6 weeks in grammar school for the first 6 weeks of my son's. It's supposedly our best school. But again, I don't want, you know, it's so easy to go down the wrong road of criticizing it. But we need to do better than this. Our teachers need to do better. Our teachers cannot be going around calling children retards. Why are you doing that for? You know, I mean, did he do something stupid? If he did, report him to his parents or the headmaster or whatever and do something. But what are we doing insulting children? Why are you as teachers not showing up in school half the time and then wondering? Why are you telling children that you're putting up your hand too often and asking too many questions? What are you doing? This is supposedly our best school in the country.
I can never get that one.
It's insane what we are doing, and nobody's pulling them down on it. Why do we have, again, my favorite topic again, I'll say again, why do we have a rum shop located near the high schools? Explain that to me. I can't find one person who supports it up to now. You know, and certain people hate me for saying it. But we need to do what is right at some point, not what is politically expedient. And we are not doing well enough for our young children. It is not the politicians, it is us, the parents. We're not putting the interest of the children first. Until we start doing that, we ain't going nowhere.
And we can pull this back down to sports again, which is right up your alley. Back down to sports again. In school, instead the teachers would tell these Form 1 grandpas and grannies, as I'm calling them that. Instead of telling them, okay, you know what? I'm not going to let you partake in sports until you get your grades up. We just let them go. Say, oh, go on, you go to sports. And then behind it's like, oh, you're real dunce. I can play lotto with your grades.
But you see, the thing is, right, if the kids like sports, you have to use it as a motivational tool. My children, right, I tell them, you know, it's a tough world out there and you have to compete. You want this, you want your new iPhone, you want your new iPad, you know, all the nice things that the kids love these days. You want one, you got to earn it. So you sit down and you say, here's your plans. You have an event in Barbados in 3 weeks' time or in 3 months' time. If you do personal best in these times, if you win this medals or whatever, you get this. If you don't, you don't. And by the way, your grades better stay up too, because they go together. Because if your grades are not there and it's strictly sports, then you have a problem. I'm not rewarding that kind of behavior. It's a balance in life. Life is about balance. It's not just all one way. And in my view, that's what we have to do. We're not doing well enough of that. So sports is critical. It needs to be done properly. It needs to be structured properly. Government needs to recognize its importance. And it was nice to see the Prime Minister at the National Sports Awards the other night, and he gave an excellent speech, I thought, and he should be commended for it. But the organizations also, we have our role to play. Those of us who are the administrators have a role to play, and if we don't do it right, we destroy everything. And that's what we do. We put our own egos first. And you could go back to me and say, but aren't you doing that, Stephen, because you won't serve with certain people, right? There are other ways to serve other than being a president. There's other ways to help other than being a president. You don't have to have a fancy title. to help.
Okay, so as we're coming down to the dying moments, right?
Yes.
Why do you think that, for example, with the pool at Maurice, why do you think that the schools are not implementing sports as a part of your curriculum? Because you can get scholarships from sports, you can get I can take you outside the country.
Absolutely correct. Great opportunities. Probably a lot more scholarships and easier to get than academic scholarships, but that's another story. Right. Why are they not doing it? I believe this. I could only think of two reasons, really. One, nobody ever thought of it. Nobody ever thought of it. And to be honest with you, I didn't think of it until I'm sitting up there with the pool next to me and look down and I see all these schools there, and I thought, shit, why aren't we doing this? And apparently at one time, Girls High School did start to do it, and then they changed and they started to take a bus out instead to come to Shrewsbury House. So that doesn't make any sense either, because again, as I continue to swimming cannot be just about a little 3-lane pool at Shrewsbury House and 4 great swimmers. It cannot be. It has to be about a lifestyle. It has to be being part of your education. It is not the be-all and end-all. My son plays football. He loves it. He's also a great swimmer. You know, my daughter used to love track and field, and then, you know, she decided that when you get to a certain age, you focus. But play a wide range of sports. You know, try everything. Try a little of everything. You don't need to focus on one sport unless you happen to have a tremendous talent for it. Don't bother focusing on it. It's part of the education. It's part of your curriculum. Look at phys ed, PE. As I said, I'll use my poor son again. He'll probably kill me later for saying this. But, you know, my son goes to grammar school, and on a Wednesday, he goes to class, does his first class, and then he has PE for 2 sessions, I believe. And then, you know what he has to do? He has to go back into his class. I don't understand who's doing the scheduling, because I'm missing something. Because that clearly, to me, is absolutely incredible. You're going out in the hot sun, you're running up and down in a sweaty place, you ain't got no place to have a proper shower, and then you're going back in and you're expected to focus on your class. Why add all PE sessions on the afternoons? You may say lack of facilities or whatever, but we got to find something to do with it, because we're not doing it well enough now. And why not extend the school day if you have to? Why are we sending everybody home at 3 o'clock from school? The parents are at work still. Your parents are at work till 4:30. Why not extend the school day till 4 o'clock? The teachers might not like it, but you know what?
And I don't think the students might like it. But you know,
but you have more room to do other things too.
Yeah, I believe it was Korea. The students opted to extend school hours because they find that they were not getting enough hours to do their studies.
Correct. Well,
and there's another study, a poll from CNN that came out that, going back to where you said, as you said, the white kids are doing much better, not because of anything, but the environment.
Correct.
And CNN poll found that the Asians and you know, certain races of persons are doing much better, and well, they attributed some of it to the background where they came from, and they have a mentality set that I'm not going to stay where I am at. I'm going to move forward.
It's true.
And some of them they use sports as their way forward.
Absolutely.
Some use science as their way forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. But again, I go back to the idea. It's a holistic approach we need. It's not just about swimming. It's not just about track and field. It's not just about football or basketball. And you look at what's going on. You know, there's a young guy, you know, 14, 15 years old, maybe a little older. He likes to play basketball. He loves to play basketball, and yet he can't find a decent coach. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, basketball doesn't seem to have any coaches who seem to be willing to help the young people. There may be a few out there, don't get me wrong, I'm sure they are somewhere, but it is not in an organized, disciplined fashion. You know, my son loves playing football, as I told you earlier. We had a hell of a time trying to find a coach who would actually teach the young kids and would get paid for it. No, they want to go play football, but they don't want to help the young kids along too. You got to give something back.
That's true. Okay, so I keep saying dying moments. Dying moments. Yeah. Right. Okay, so coming down, you mentioned the few sponsors that you you have, but do you find a general support for not just sports, well, sports in general, but I won't bring it home to swimming. Do you find that there is good enough amount of support locally?
No, you have to work hard. You have to work hard. Again, I go back to my daughter, Sinead. The only reason we get the attention we did is because she was winning. And a friend of mine, Keith Joseph, Secretary General of this Olympic Committee, said Stephen Vincentians only care about medals. So once we started winning, And once afterwards, Nicholas came along, and then Shane came along, and Alex, and people start to win. That's when you start to get attention, and you're able to find funding. But it's not easy. It is not easy to find funding out there. And I understand, again, I go back to reality of limited resources on a small island. So I'm not out there shooting the government for not giving us this or giving us that, because it's the reality. We have pressing things to decide how to spend your money on. You know, some people want an airport, some people want hospitals. You know, make up your mind, guys, because you're not getting both.
Right.
You know, so.
Okay, and lastly, also on NBC Radio. I should probably send them an invoice.
You should send them an invoice, yeah.
Right, okay.
But it's one of the best radio stations around, by the way. Right. I know you young people like the boom, 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 boom thing in your head all night, but you know, some stage you gotta listen to something sensible.
Right. Okay, so on the sports program that they had, there was mention of the diaspora. And I'm mentioning this because we're going off to Canada too.
Yep.
And there were someone called in first and was attacking the diaspora and said, oh, we're not getting the Vincentians in the diaspora, are not doing enough, and they're just up there enjoying their life. But I happen to know that there are persons who are really doing a lot.
There are a lot of people
overseas.
I was in Canada a few weeks ago. I went to see my daughter at a swim competition in Canada, her first one, so she really needed my cheering on. Right. And Fitzhuggins came along, who is the Consul General for Canada in there. Fitz is an old friend of ours and whatever, you know. But it was great because he's posting stuff on Facebook, you know, he's really enthusiastic, he's trying his best. I have another friend, Jimmy Lewis, who's been in Canada for 30 years. You know, I lived in Canada for nearly 20 years too. These people are trying and they have their own lives, and the reality is when you look at the amount of money they actually send back to help, I don't think anybody should accuse anybody of not out there not trying to help enough, because I think they're definitely wrong on that. Right. The people who live in New York, Canada, London, who are overseas, I think they go beyond and above what we do here. Again, let's look in the mirror and see what we are doing to help ourselves. Right. And it doesn't have to be just about money. It's just, what about support? Right. What about not tearing down? I'll give you an example, another quick example. My daughter goes to Carifta last year, right? And before she left, we thought she had a shot at a gold medal. We really did. She goes to Carifta, and in the 50 breaststroke event, in the preliminaries in the morning, Sinead breaks the Carifta record. I mean, that's an incredible, you know, that doesn't happen every day. You were able to break a Carifta record at that age. In the afternoon, and the finals, you know what happened? She got disqualified.
Really?
She was nervous. She said, Daddy, I just felt so much pressure. Daddy, you know, that's what she told me. You know, because before she left everybody, you know, so she says, you know, but we come back, and you know what some idiot writes in the newspaper, or one of the papers, or the online thing, or whatever the hell it is. They focus on the fact that she didn't win the gold medal. They don't focus on a 13-year-old child breaking a Carifta record and the positive events. Instead, they focus on the fact that she got disqualified, if you like, and she didn't win the gold medal. And I'm thinking, you idiot. Do you have any idea what psychological impact that has on a 13 or 14-year-old child? This is not a veteran athlete. This is not a Kaniki Alexander who's 28 years old and is a fantastic runner. Right? This is a 13-year-old at the time, a 13-year-old girl doing her best for her country and herself. She gets disqualified in the finals. She breaks the Carifta record, and this is what you do to her. And when I complain to him, oh, I'm a trained journalist, you know, I know what I'm doing. Wonderful, Mr. Journalist. I hope you're really happy with yourself now. I believe
I know exactly who you're talking about. Last season we had a thing on, I believe, I'm just assuming it's the same Mr. Journalist. I call you Mr. Journalist. There was some...
Egos again, egos in the winner. Egos.
There was an artist in Canada for the December floods in 2013. He was trying to put off an event to send home monies for helps and stuff. And he did a music video. And he wanted footages from St. Vincent. And apparently this journalist had the best of footages, and he contacted the journalist and was asking for just for the footages, about 30 seconds. He said at least 30 seconds, you know, so that he could put in the music video that he was doing. And the journalist told him he's not doing it unless he can get 480 Canadian dollars.
That's a real shame, isn't it?
Yeah. And the thing is, he's not doing it for himself. He's not looking at to put money in his thing. He's doing it solely to send the money, because he did he associated himself with the Montreal St. Vincent. Can't remember the organization.
Whatever they are, one of those associations.
So it is just to prove that he's not doing it for himself, because he made sure he went through these organizations so that whatever comes through would
get the benefit
to St. Vincent. And this person's ego is blocking. Like, this is my work, and you're not. I mean. Legally, he's right. It is his.
That's the
It
point.
is
Legally,
his,
he's right. Yes, he's a trained journalist. Yes, it is his. Yes, but you know, why not just say, oh shit, you know what? It didn't occur to me this is a 13-year-old, and I might do some psychological damage to her. You know, I'm sorry. We couldn't say that. We had instead to get on our high horse to prove we were right, because we can never apologize in this country. We can never say, oh shit, I was wrong. You know, when was the last time you heard somebody apologize publicly and say, oh, I made a mistake, I'm sorry? When was the last time you heard that in this country from any significant public figure?
That's a good question.
You don't hear it.
And
all of us make mistakes, and none of us are perfect. And to me, the more important thing I try to remember is when you screw up, Stephen, and that's me screwing up, you need to remember, when the anger dies down, you need to be able to go and say, shit, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. We need to be able to say, I'm sorry. A
life lesson. You could be quoted. You could be quoted.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so you know what? We're going to wrap this up. Okay,
Yes.
so the question that comes to every person, and I'm throwing this one first before I bring the new season's question that is coming. I throw this to every person that comes on to the set, whether through Skype or right here in studio. At the end of the day, after this interview, for you, after the swimming events, after the sporting events, how do you want to be remembered?
I would like to be remembered when my time comes to drop dead, and I'm now about to be 53, so I've got hopefully about another 20 years left, because I like to say anything past 70 is bonus time, so some of us get a little extra, some of us don't. I don't necessarily want to be remembered. What I would like to think is that if there is a heaven, and if I'm sitting up there watching down, I don't believe it, but if there is, I'd like to think that you did good. You left the place slightly better off than how you met it. You had a positive impact on a few people in life. That's how I would like. That's what I would like. And if all of us would be just a little bit nicer to each other, just a little bit better. Try not to be nasty. Try not to look at the negatives all the time. Encourage people occasionally. St. Vincent and the Grenadines would be a magnificent place. Right now, it's not. That's what I'd like to see.
Nah, that's true. Okay, and the question for this season. Expectancy 2015. What are you expecting
I am
for
expecting
yourself?
my young swimmers to continue to do amazing things. I am expecting my main coach, the national coach, Kyle Duggan, to do tremendous things. I'm expecting Nyasha Alexander and Ricky Dean to keep working with the little kids and teaching them how to swim. I am expecting Louise Mitchell-Joseph to continue working on the grassroots. For myself, I have very little expectations. I want the kids to be happy. I want the kids to be happy, content, and do a little bit better. That's all.
We need more persons of your ideology.
Well, not necessarily. I may talk it, but you got to act it out too. Thank you, my friend.
At least the ideology.
We got to try. We got to try.
Yes, Stephen, it was a pleasure.
My friend, it was a pleasure chatting with you too.
Yes.
Take care. Thank you.
All right. So, guys, you've just seen another episode of An Exclusive Season 3, okay? So, for those of you guys in Canada, we do appreciate everything that you do. And for all Vincentians in general, those of you guys at home, take a little page out of what was just discussed here. First off, with the children, encourage them, motivate them, keep them going, right? And for sports, encourage them to go into sports and keep their grades up. Because seriously, that is important. Because you can run a 500 meter in 2 seconds, and you can't spell your name. It just doesn't make sense.
Absolutely.
Right. So, guys, just keep moving forward. An Exclusive delves into all things Vincentians, whether it be music, lifestyle, sports, food. Once it's Vincentian, we're into it. All right, I'm of course your host, Jeronnie Richardson. You can follow me on Twitter at Jeronnie_Zillon. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. You can follow me, like my page, and let's have a chat. Until we meet again, enjoy.
Alpha and Omega, the former of my Genesis, the continuation of my Sega. In my pot, you know he be that sweet, distinct kind of flavor. Yeah, the one who saves, the one who heals. He knows it all, even when no one knows how I truly feel. Counselor, Redeemer, he's the same yesterday, today, and forever. I die in him, and he resurrects me. More than a fairy tale, we were meant to be.